Hello students, today I am going to start the amplitude modulation. Okay, in the earlier lecture I have discussed what is the modulation and what is demodulation and what are the needs of modulation and demodulation in the communication engineering. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there may be different types of modulation. In this curriculum we will consider only the analog modulation techniques because the subject name is the analog communication engineering. Now, most commonly used and most simple form of the modulation technique is the amplitude modulation. In this chapter we will going to discuss the amplitude modulation techniques, different types of the amplitude modulation techniques in detail. Okay. Now let me define the modulation first. What is modulation? Modulation is defined as the process by which some characteristics of a high frequency carrier wave is varied in accordance with an information bearing low frequency message signal. Now look at the definition, you can find it here. Say that some characteristics of the high frequency carrier wave. Now let me first again recapitulate that carrier wave means the sinusoidal waveform which has higher frequency as compared to the highest frequency of the message wave. Okay, so CT is defined as the carrier signal or carrier wave which is sinusoidal in nature. Its frequency FC should be much higher than the frequency of the message signal, that is defined by FM. Okay, now some characteristics of the high frequency carrier wave, it does mean that some characteristics means what are the characteristics, basic characteristics of a sinusoidal signal. It has three different characteristics. One is called the amplitude, another is called the frequency, and third one is the phase. That means modulation is a process by which either amplitude or frequency or phase of this carrier signal will be varied in accordance to which signal? In accordance to the message signal. Okay, information bearing message signal, that is MT, that is defined by or referred to as the MT. Now see that in the equation number 1 the form of the carrier signal is shown. CT is equal to AC. AC is the constant amplitude of the carrier signal. Cos, I have told you that it is sinusoidal signal. You may consider it as sine or cos, whatever. These are actually quadrature in nature, just shifted by 90 degree. 2 pi FCT, FC is the frequency of the carrier signal, plus phi C. Phi C is the initial phase. Okay, and as a whole this 2 pi FCT plus phi C, it can be considered as phi T. It is the time varying phase of the carrier signal. So equation 1 is actually representing the form of the carrier signal. FC is a high frequency, it is higher than the message signal's frequency. Okay, message signal may be either audio signal or picture or video signal, whatever. Remember that any information bearing signal should be random in nature, and those should not be essentially single frequency signal. It should have different frequency components, a number of frequency components. And for simplicity, if we assume that this particular message signal, for analytic simplicity, if we consider this message signal has a periodic form but complex in nature, that means number of frequency components is actually originating this message signal, then you can represent this message signal in form of a Fourier series. Okay, A0 is the DC term. These cosinusoidal terms are the these are the cosinusoidal terms and these are the sinusoidal terms. Okay, now cosinusoidal terms and sinusoidal terms have different frequencies. See, that means if you vary the n values from 1, 2, 3 up to infinity, then you can have both of these terms frequencies will vary from FM, 2FM, 3FM, etc. The FM is the fundamental frequency of the message signal, and 2FM, 3FM, 4FM are the all harmonics. As you know that from the knowledge of the signals and systems. Now generally for the voice signal, this DC term A0 should be 0. Okay, it is the nature of the voice signal. But for the picture or video signals, this A0 term may be either positive or negative. Okay, Now, if you generally the message signals can be considered as this kind of having this kind of form, complex form, uh, but for simplicity, later I will discuss. For simplicity of analysis and better understanding, you can also consider message signal as a single frequency signal. Just considering a single cosinusoidal term from here, all other terms equal to 0. That means only considering the fundamental term. Okay. Since this is actually this particular equation number 2 is formed by the summation of this kind of terms. Okay, so that means it is actually obeying the method theorem of superposition. That's why if the whole process is valid for a single frequency, the same process will be valid for a number of frequencies. Okay, so this kind of message signal, if you consider this kind of message signal and proceed for analysis, then that kind of analysis is called the single tone analysis, because you are considering a single frequency. Frequency means tone. Okay, now let me define the modulation. Suppose this is your message signal and it is its variation. Okay, according to this time variation, you have to vary either the amplitude of the carrier signal, or the frequency of the carrier signal, or the phase of the carrier signal. Okay, that means modulation can be of 3 types. First of all, go to here, see that if you vary the amplitude AC of the carrier signal in accordance with the message signal's time variation, then the corresponding modulation is called the amplitude modulation. It is linear in nature. Okay, remember, it is linear in nature. But if you vary the frequency of the carrier signal, that means FC, in accordance with the message signal, then it is called the frequency modulation. And next, if you vary the whole phase, that means this term within the bracket as a whole in accordance with the message signal's time variation, then it is called the phase modulation. So modulation, and remember that frequency and phase modulations are also called the angular modulation together, and these are non-linear in nature. Okay, only the amplitude modulation is linear in nature, but FM and PM, frequency modulation and phase modulations, are non-linear in nature. I will discuss these 2 types of modulation in the next chapter. In this chapter, we shall talk about the amplitude modulation only. Okay. Next thing is that these modulations are all the continuous wave modulations or the analog modulations, or the okay, because we are considering MT, your message signal, as a analog signal. That's why these are called the continuous wave or analog modulation techniques. Now, what are the types of the linear modulation or the amplitude modulation? Generally, amplitude modulation is also known as the double sideband amplitude modulation. In abbreviation, it can be regarded as DSB-AM. Okay, it is one type of amplitude modulation and most simplest form. Next type is the double sideband suppressed carrier type, or DSB-SC type amplitude modulation. It is a bit complex, but certainly better than the earlier one. Okay, in some aspect it is better than the earlier one. I will discuss later in which aspect. Third one is the single sideband suppressed carrier modulation, SSB-SC. Okay, it is the third kind. Again, it is slightly better than the double sideband suppressed carrier modulation in some aspect. Again, some disadvantages are also there. I will discuss later. And the fourth one and final one is the vestigial sideband modulation. Generally, amplitude modulation, the first one, DSB-AM, can be used for the public radio broadcasting because it is the most simplest form and requires very low cost receiver for receiving this kind of amplitude modulated waveform. DSB-SC and SSB-SP generally are more efficient modulation techniques in terms of bandwidth, and in terms of, for SSB, in terms of both bandwidth as well as power. Okay, generally DSB-SC is superior than the AM, ordinary AM, in terms of the power, that means the transmission power efficiency, and SSB-SC is superior than earlier to one in terms of both power as well as the bandwidth. Vestigial sideband modulation is the special kind of SSB modulation, or you can also say it is special kind of DSB-SC modulation, which is especially used for the television broadcasting, free to air television broadcasting. Okay, now straightforward I am going to the first kind of modulation, amplitude modulation, that is the simplest form, double sideband amplitude modulation, or simply amplitude modulation, the mathematical analysis of this. Okay, amplitude modulation or DSB-AM. It is the carrier signal AC cos 2 pi fc t. Okay, now I am just not considering the initial phase phi c because it is relative. Okay, just for simplicity I am considering it is equal to 0. And mt is any arbitrary message signal. It is not necessarily that it should be periodic, it can be represented by the Fourier series or not, just forget about that. Consider any arbitrary message signal. Okay, next, as per the definition of amplitude modulation, amplitude of the carrier signal AC should be varied in accordance with the time variation of the message signal MT. Okay, that means after modulation, just after modulation, this CT carrier signal will become a new kind of signal where this cosinusoidal term will not be disturbed, because here only we will embed your message signal into the amplitude of the carrier. That means now a modulated signal's amplitude will be a time varying amplitude, which is actually containing the message signal. Okay, but this phase quantity and the frequency will not be changed by this process. So it is the message modulated signal after modulation. Okay, so ST is the modulated signal after the modulation of MT by CT. So now the amplitude of CT AC, which was constant initially, it has become time varying now. Okay, AT. Now as per the definition, your final amplitude after modulation, final amplitude, difference between the final amplitude and initial amplitude of the carrier, that means final amplitude AT minus initial amplitude, should be proportional to the time variation of the message signal. Okay, so AT minus AC, it is the final value of the amplitude, it is the initial value of the amplitude, should be proportional to MT. Simply, if you introduce one proportionality constant, arbitrary constant Ka dashed, okay, it is any arbitrary constant, if you introduce that, this proportionality will become the equality. And now your AT from this, if you simplify, AT should be equal to Ka dashed MT plus AC. Okay, now if you put this equation number 4 into equation number 3, then you will have the expression for modulated signal of amplitude modulation. Okay, ST should be equal to, we have taken AC common here, 1 plus Ka dashed by AC MT cos 2 pi fct. It is the general form of the amplitude modulated waveform. Okay, now if you consider this constant value, because see that Ka dashed, this is one constant, depends on the circuitry, and AC is the amplitude of the carrier signal, it is also constant. So if you consider this whole ratio as a single constant Ka, then your expression will become this one, and this is the general expression for amplitude modulation. See that if you multiply this term AC cos 2 pi fc inside this bracket, then the first term will become AC cos 2 pi fct, and the second term will become plus AC Ka mt cos 2 pi fct. By considering the first term, you can see that it is nothing but the carrier signal, it is uninterrupted carrier. Okay, and the second term is nothing but the multiplication of carrier signal and the message signal. See that it is the message signal, and AC, this term is the carrier signal. So first term should be the uninterrupted carrier signal, and second term is the multiplication of carrier and message signal multiplied by some constant Ka. Okay, now Ka is called the amplitude sensitivity factor. Amplitude sensitivity factor, it is having the unit of volt inverse. See that value of Ka will determine how much sensitive the amplitude modulated wave on the message signal. That's why it is called the amplitude sensitivity factor. Now consider the figure in the right side. Consider one arbitrary message signal having this arbitrary form. It is the carrier signal having the co-sinusoidal form, and after modulation, fixed amplitude of the carrier signal is varying in accordance with the time variation of the message signal. See that fixed amplitude was there in case of the carrier signal CT. In case of the modulated waveform, it is becoming just similar as the time variation of this one. Okay, so both for the positive side as well as the negative side. This particular locus of the tip of the cosinusoidal carrier in case of the modulated waveform is called the envelope. It is the positive envelope and it is called the negative envelope. And see that positive as well as negative envelopes are actually carrying the message signal because those are similar in nature of the message signal's time variation. Now if this term Ka modulus of mt, see that mt may be either positive or negative at any instant of time, so that's why I am considering modulus. It may be positive or negative. Okay, if this term this term's modulus, that means the value is less than 1, then you can surely say that this particular term, this whole term will be always positive. Okay, that's why always this envelope will remain within the first quadrant and the negative envelope will remain always in the second quadrant, fourth quadrant. Okay, it will no quadrant change will occur. That means this envelope will not cross the time axis if always this factor is positive. It is ensured by this particular term Ka-mt, its magnitude should be always less than 1. If it is equal to 1, then this envelope, its minimum value will just touch the time axis. Okay, and this will call the 100% modulation. After that, if you again increase this value, that means K modulus of mt, if it is greater than 1, then surely this envelope will cross the time axis. Okay, like this. See that envelope is now deep and it is crossing the time axis. That's why at this point and this point phase reversal is occurred, and for that negative envelope also it is going to the first quadrant from the fourth quadrant, and at the same points phase reversals are occurred. Generally, in detection of the amplitude modulation, we are interested to detect the envelope, either positive envelope or negative envelope. Okay, envelope is carrying the message signal because envelope is similar to the message signal. Now if somehow this thing occurs, that means some phase reversal occurs for each of the envelopes, then what will happen? For the positive envelope is now becoming this kind. That means at the interval of phase reversal points, in between the phase reversal points, the nature of the envelope is changing. It's reversing. Okay, that's why now you cannot say that the positive envelope of this particular waveform is carrying the message. Here it is a distortion. Again, if you consider the negative envelope, again here it is a distortion. Okay, so phase reversal should be always avoided. So this kind of value should be always avoided. It is called the over modulation. Okay, and this process of phase reversal due to the over modulation is called the envelope distortion. It should be avoided. So that means modulation should be done up to 100% or less than 100%. Remember that. Next point is that frequency of the carrier feedback signal should be much greater than the highest frequency of the message signal. Highest frequency of the message signal is W, or you can say that if the message signal is baseband signal starting from 0 frequency, then the bandwidth of the message signal is also W. Now I have already told you that the frequency of the carrier feedback should be much greater than the highest frequency of the message signal. Why? I will discuss later. These are all about the time domain description of the amplitude modulation, its analysis. Okay, now I am going to the frequency domain description of the amplitude modulation. Suppose Fourier transform pairs are defined as MT, it is the time domain message signal, its frequency domain is capital MF, okay, F is the frequency. CT is the carrier signal, its frequency domain is capital CF. ST is the modulated signal, its frequency domain is capital SF. Now if you want to find out the SF, that means the frequency domain of the modulated signal, then it is the frequency domain of the modulated signal, it should be the Fourier transform of the time domain of the modulated signal, that means ST. ST has this form which have been already obtained in equation number 6, so you have to Fourier transform this, okay. So just decompose this particular equation, time domain equation. It should have the uninterrupted carrier signal plus the multiplication of the message signal and carrier signal, two terms are there, okay. So if you expand or resolve the cosinusoidal, it should have two exponential term, okay. Exponential plus of j theta, if it is cos theta, then exponential plus j theta plus exponential minus j theta by 2, okay. So put it here, and here since from the Fourier transformation property, okay, let me come to that later. Again this has been decomposed into exponential terms. Say that by 2 is kept here, and exponential of plus theta plus exponential of minus j, exponential of plus j theta plus exponential of minus j theta, okay. It is representing the cosinusoidal term. Now simply take out this AC by 2 term here from the first term, and exponential of j 2 pi fct, it will nothing but the delta of f minus fc. Just consider this particular property, exponential property of the just recapitulate the Fourier transform method, you will find that this is the property of the exponential property of the that means the frequency shifting property of the Fourier transformation, and this one should be equivalent to or equal to the delta f plus fc. So this term in that frequency domain is becoming the summation of two delta functions. One is situated at plus fc, another is situated at minus fc, okay. And this term here, if you use this property, frequency shifting property, shift of frequency domain property, if you apply this property here, you will obtain this term will become, this whole thing is coming out of the operation, and it should be capital M f minus fc plus capital M f plus fc. These two are actually shifted versions of the message signal in the frequency domain, okay. This should be centered at the positive carrier frequency, this should be centered at the negative carrier frequency. If you want to plot the frequency domain graphs, then suppose we have considered it is the frequency domain of the message signal MF, okay. It is centered at 0, it is the positive side starting from 0 to W. I have already discussed higher frequency component of the message signal I have considered as W, okay. This nature is random, I have chosen, okay. It is the mirror image. You know that Fourier transform will cause a negative frequency components which are not physical but mathematical representation requires it, okay. Now if you consider the carrier component is a single frequency component. It should be represented by a simple delta function, okay. It is centered at the fc because carrier frequency is fc, it is a single frequency. For message signal, its amplitude is m0 at f equal to 0, and for the carrier signal, its amplitude is, we know that it is positive AC, okay. It should be centered at fc, and its form should be here delta f minus fc, because you know that if the delta function is here, it should be regarded as the delta f. If it is time delayed, then if it is time delayed, then it will be delta f minus fc, and if it is time advanced, then it should be delta f plus fc. So this one is the carrier frequency, and it is its mirror image is here at minus fc, okay. Now after modulation, what will happen? See that after modulation, what are the terms here? After modulation, it is the modulated waveform's frequency domain. See that it has simple the carrier frequency term. Carrier frequency is containing, sorry, the carrier signal is containing these two terms. See that this term and this term both are representing the carrier signal, and here it is by 2 just, okay. So put it here. So there will be one carrier frequency component, and next these two are the shifted versions of the message signal, okay. This is the shifted version of the message signal. Message signal was here MF. If you shift it to positive FC, then this whole thing will be right shifted to here, centered at the FC. See that it is here. The minimum frequency component will be FC minus W, and maximum frequency component will be FC plus W, okay. And its mirror image will be here. Mirror image means obviously one this will be the mirror image. That means the time advance component. This is the time delayed component. This is the time advance. Sorry, not time. Frequency advanced component. This one is the frequency advanced component. This one is the frequency delayed component. Okay. This one. Okay. So these two are the representation of frequency domain representation of the modulated waveform. So now see that modulated waveform has this kind of form, which is similar as the message waveform in the frequency domain. But in the frequency domain, message signal, this physical portion is there starting from 0 to W. You should not consider from minus W to 0, because it is the imaginary component. It should not physically exist it, okay. But if you shift this whole thing right side, then what will happen? This whole thing, that means the right side as well as the left side, will now coming to the positive frequency axis. That means the both of these components are becoming the physical here. So this one and this one are nothing but the mirror images containing the same information, but those are mirror images to each other, okay. That's why this one is starting from FC ending at FC plus W. So these are the higher frequency components. These are called the upper sideband, okay. And this one starting from FC minus W ending at FC, these are containing the lower frequency components. Those are called the lower sideband, okay. Upper sideband and lower sidebands are actually same. Those are containing the same information. Those are bearing the same information, but those are actually mirror image to each other, okay. Frequency translated. Upper sideband have the higher frequency components, lower sideband has the lower frequency components, okay. Now obviously the MT is band limited. Look at here, it is starting, if you consider both the imaginary as well as the physical axis, minus W up to W, its frequency component is there. For the lower sideband, the frequency component starting from FC minus W ending at FC here, and for the upper sideband, it is starting at FC ending at FC plus W, okay. If you want to find out the bandwidth of this modulated signal, it should be highest frequency component divided minus the lowest frequency component. So highest frequency component minus the lowest frequency. So it should be 2W. That means if the bandwidth of a message signal is W, it is modulated by a carrier signal FC, which is much greater than W, then at the output you will get a modulated signal which should have or which must have the bandwidth of 2W. That means bandwidth of the message signal will be doubled after modulation, okay, because it is containing the message twice. One is actually the upper sideband, another is actually the lower sideband, okay. So these are the frequency domain description. Next is the single tone modulation. Now single tone modulation will give you some insight, actually it will give you some deep insight to the analysis and give you some definition of some important parameters like modulation index, etc. singleton analysis, in case of singleton analysis, we shall consider message signal has a deterministic form, okay, and it should have one single frequency or single tone. That's why it is called the single tone modulation. See that MT, now we are not considering MT as a random signal. I am considering MT as a cosinusoidal function, okay, cosinusoidal signal. Its amplitude is AM and the variation, time variation, is obeying the cosine of 2 pi FM t. FM is the frequency of the message signal, okay. Now CT or the carrier signal has the same form. I am considering the frequency of the carrier signal is much greater than the frequency of the message signal. FC is greater than FM. Now if you use the same definition, now the modulator signal will have this kind of form, because you know that the amplitude of the carrier will now carry the message signal, and if you use the similar steps which I have used in the earlier one, final amplitude of the carrier signal after modulation minus initial amplitude of the carrier signal before modulation should be proportional to the message signal. If you start from that step, you will obtain this equation, okay, equation number 3. And in place of KAAM, just I am putting here mu. Mu is equal to KAAM. It is known as the modulation factor or percentage of modulation. It is also known as the modulation index, okay. Now elaborate this equation number 3. First term is the uninterrupted message signal, second term is the multiplication of the message signal and the carrier signal, okay. Actually mu is containing the amplitude of the message signal and a constant Ka. Now if you elaborate cos, if you consider it is cos A and it is cos B, then you can elaborate as cos A plus B plus cos A minus B, okay. So it is nothing but the upper sideband. See that frequency component is Fc plus Fm, so it is actually the higher frequency component. That's why it is the upper sideband, and Fc minus Fm is strictly the lower frequency component. That's why it can be regarded as the lower sideband, okay. So what are the different components of the modulated amplitude modulated waveform, which can be clearly viewed from this equation number 5. See that it is the unchanged carrier. It is unchanged carrier. Simply CT is this, okay. Next term having some scaling factor. After that there should be the upper sideband and lower sideband. So what are the components of the amplitude modulated waveform? Unchanged carrier, upper sideband plus lower sideband, okay. So this is that. And if you want to see the time domain description, it is here. See that MT, it has the cosinusoidal form. Its frequency is smaller than Fc. It is the carrier frequency. Its frequency is higher than Fm. That's why these kind of relations are there. These are dense and these are less denser, okay. So it is the message signal, it is the carrier signal. Now if you modulate, you know that the constant amplitude of the carrier signal will be varied in accordance with the time variation of the message signal. So it is represented here. See that now the amplitude of the carrier signal is varied in accordance with the time variation of the message signal, okay. So it is the modulated waveform, and it is the under modulation. Simply it is less than 100% modulation is used. Now if you consider the highest amplitude here in the modulated signal as Amax and smallest amplitude of the modulated signal as Amin, then from the relationship of Amax and Amin, you can find out the modulation index. Actually this procedure is used in the experimental measurements. If you have a sinusoidal message signal, if you produce one carrier signal, high frequency carrier signal, if you have the circuit to that means the amplitude output you will obtain this kind of waveform, which can be viewed in the DSO or CRO, and from the DSO or CRO you can obtain the peak to peak voltage of the Amax and peak to peak voltage of the A min. And from the relationship which I will show just now, just after the discussion, from the relationship you can find out the modulation index which is used for this modulation. See that how can you obtain that? See that we know that any cos theta, that means any cosinusoidal function should have the amplitude maximum +1 and minimum -1. Okay, you know that cos theta should be less or equal to 1 and greater or equal to -1. Okay, so if you want to find out the A max, that means the amplitude of the modulated waveform, amplitude of the use the equation number 4. If you want to find out the amplitude of the modulated waveform, highest amplitude of the modulated waveform, what you have to do, you have to consider the highest value of this cosinusoidal function or the cos 2 pi fmt. If this particular factor has the highest value, then the amplitude of the modulated waveform will have the highest value. Okay, so what is its highest value? It is 1. Put that here. So A max should be equal to, put it this cosinusoidal term as 1. A max should be equal to AC 1 plus mu. Okay, similarly if you put minimum value of this cosinusoidal function here, it will become AC 1 minus mu, and that will give the minimum value of the amplitude of the modulated waveform. Those are actually A max and A min are these two, maximum value and minimum value of the modulated waveform. Okay, if you have that, now experimentally you can measure A max and A min. Just you do have these two theoretical relationship. Take the ratio of these two, and from this relationship, if you find out mu, you will find out that mu should be equal to A max minus A min by A max plus A min. Okay, from that, by measuring A max and A min from the DSO or CRO in the experimental bench, you can find out the amount of modulation or the modulation index, modulation factor or percentage of modulation of any single tone modulation, AM modulation. Okay, it is equation number 7. This equation is very important for carrying out the numerical problems. Okay, now try to understand the frequency domain information. So do the Fourier transform of this particular term, of this particular total amplitude modulated waveform in the time domain. It is equation number 5. Okay, so by doing the Fourier transformation, first term will have can be elaborated these two exponential functions, and the second term will contain first this one cosinusoidal 2 pi fc plus fm. This will have exponential of 2 pi j 2 pi fc plus fmt plus negative of that. Okay, and this lower side band will have these two exponential terms. Now if you just simply Fourier transform these two terms, then what will happen? First term, this one is nothing but the carrier, this one this is the upper side band. Okay, there will be one delta f minus this one and delta f minus this one, and this will have the lower side band. Okay, so upper side band and lower side band both are translated to the or transformed to the frequency domain. Do this by your own, and if you plot those in the frequency domain, fm, this is fm, that is the message signal. It has the amplitude of am as the imaginary axis, that means the minus frequency axis here, minus fm, there will be the one notch there, and it is the carrier should be centered at the fc, and here it should be minus fc. Okay, after modulation, what will happen? This whole thing will be translated, or whole thing will be shifted, frequency shifted to plus fc, so it will become this, and this whole thing again frequency advanced up to minus fc, it will be this. Okay, so this will be the actually frequency domain of the amplitude modulated waveform in the single tone case. And from here you can simply see that it is uninterrupted carrier, just the amplitude is scaled by 1/2, and these two are nothing but the message signals translated to fc plus fm and fc minus fm. This one is the upper sideband, this one is the lower sideband. Again the amplitudes are scaled down, okay, mu by 4, that will be that. Now after doing the singleton modulation, you are now at the position to find out the power of each term. That means the three terms are there in the amplitude modulated waveform. One is the carrier term, second is the lower sideband term, and third is the upper sideband term. If you want to find out the power of each of those terms, you can now find out the total transmitted power in order to transmit the amplitude modulated waveform. Okay. Now see that, suppose power delivered to a resistor R, PR. What is that? Amplitude square divided by R. R is the value of that resistor. If you connect one A cos omega t, this particular source, to a resistor of R, then that source will deliver the power of A square, amplitude square divided by R. This amount of power will be delivered to the resistor R. If the value of the resistor is 1 ohm, that means for unit resistor, the average power delivered to unit resistor will be simply A square. Okay. If you want to find out the power of the, that means the RMS value of the power, then what will be that? The A square, this A value will be AC by root 2. If you consider the carrier signal's amplitude is AC, AC by root 2 will be the RMS value of that particular amplitude. Okay. So what will be the carrier power? Carrier power will be simply carrier term. This is the carrier term. What will be its power delivered to the unit resistor, that is 1 ohm resistor? It will be the RMS value of this amplitude square. Okay. So that will be that AC divided by root 2 whole square. It is AC square by 2. Simple. Next, upper sideband. What will be the power delivered to the upper sideband? Now see that, what is the amplitude of the upper sideband? See, amplitude of the upper sideband is mu AC by 2. So what will be the RMS value? Mu AC 2 root 2. So now what will be the power? Mu AC 2 root 2 whole square. That will be that, mu square AC square by 8. And lower sideband will have the same power because it is common to both upper sideband and lower sideband. Mu AC divided by 2 root 2 whole square. That will give you the power of the lower sideband. Now what will be the total transmitted power? Because you know that modulated waveform will be transmitted, and transmitted power will be power of the carrier waveform, power of the upper sideband, as well as the power of the lower sideband. All of them should be summed up in order to obtain the total transmitted power. So if you put these values, AC square by 2, mu square AC square by 8 plus mu square AC square by 8 for all these three terms, then you will after doing the simplification, so you will obtain the power transmitted should be equal to PC. PC is the carrier power, that means this one, AC square by 2. So PC multiplied by 1 plus mu square by 2. It is one very important relationship for calculating the transmitted power for a given carrier power and the modulation index mu. Okay, equation number 8 is very important for carrying out the numerical problems. Okay, now again, if we consider what is the transmission efficiency, remember that transmission efficiency is defined as percentage of power used to transmit the information divided by with respect to actually the total transmitted power. Again I am repeating, it is the efficiency which is defined by, transmission efficiency is defined by the percentage of power used for carrying the information with respect to the total transmitted power. That means it should be the power which terms actually carrying the information, both upper sideband and lower sideband, both are carrying the information. Okay, but PC, this uninterrupted carrier, is not carrying the information. It is just redundant term in terms of power. So these two terms are actually carrying the information. So in the upper numerator, it will have P LSB plus P USB. So this term actually carrying the information, the power carrying the information divided by total power, total transmitted power, PT, means it is containing both of all of these three terms. So if you find out the what will be the analytic expression for this transmission efficiency, put these values here. P LSB, you can put mu square AC square by 4, by 8, and here also mu square AC square by 8, it will obtain mu square AC square by 4, and in place of PT you are putting PC in bracket 1 plus mu square by 2 here. Okay, after simplifying, you will obtain, it will become mu square by 2 plus mu square multiplied by 100 in percentage. Okay, so it is an analytical expression for the transmission efficiency. Now for 100% modulation or the maximum transmission efficiency up to which you can reach, because you cannot go beyond the 100% modulation. If you put mu equal to 1, that means it is a 100% modulation. Anything less than 1 is under modulation. Okay, so if you want to find out the maximum transmission efficiency, you have to consider the 100% modulation, that means mu equal to 1. If you put that here, you will obtain 1 by 3 multiplied by 100%, that means 33.33%. remember that transmission efficiency of ordinary amplitude modulation is just 33.33%. so most of the power, that means almost 66.67% of power is wasted. Okay, so this kind of modulation, actually 66.67% of power is used by the carrier signal itself, this PC. Okay, this particular huge amount of power is wastefully transmitted with the upper sideband and lower sideband. So that's why this simple amplitude modulation is not power efficient. It is using very huge amount of power, out of which only 33.33% is carrying the information or useful. Okay, now if you consider multiple messages are modulated via different modulation indexes, because you know that your message signal should not have the single frequency like the single tone. It will have the different frequencies, suppose M1T, M2T, M3T, M4T up to MNT as per the Fourier series method. Okay, and these all M1T, M2T etc. will have different amplitudes, so obviously corresponding modulation indexes will have different. That means the mu1, mu2, mu3, mu4 are the corresponding modulation index corresponding to the M1, M2, M3, M4 etc. Okay, if you find out the if you want to find out the overall transmitted power, then you have to use this equation, because actually this is nothing but a linear modulation technique. So you can use the method of superposition here, and for each of these message signals M1T, M2T, M3T, there will be two sidebands, upper sideband and lower sidebands, and all of them, upper sideband and lower sideband together, will carry the amount of power PC multiplied by, that means this one, mu square AC square by 4. This amount of power will be carried by all of those message terms. Okay, for M1T it will be mu1 square AC square by 4. For M2T it will be mu2 square AC square by 4. In this way all of them will be there. If you add all them, you will obtain the total transmitted power equal to PC multiplied by 1 plus mu1 square by 2, mu2 square by 2 up to mu1 square by 2. Okay, this is the equation number 9, and it is also very important for carrying out the numerical problems. Okay, now I am coming to the next topic. Next topic is the amplitude modulation wave generation. Okay, how can we generate the amplitude modulated wave? Amplitude modulated wave can be generated by means of square law modulator. It is very important topic. Remember, what is square law modulator? See that uh, a simple diode, I am considering the forward bias characteristics of a simple diode. It will have this kind of waveform, this kind of characteristics, IV characteristics. It is the I axis, it is the V axis. Okay, it is just like a exponential in nature, and very sharp exponential increase will be there. There will be some cut-in voltage. After that, exponential increase of current with respect to voltage, and after certain value, the increase of current will become very sharp. Almost after certain value, it will become linear, sharply increasing linear. But within this region, when the V value is not very large, this region will contain the nonlinear graph. See that it is the nonlinear region of the characteristics when the V values are not very high. Okay, suppose 0.5 volt or 0.6 volts or up to 1 volt. Suppose up to 1 volt you can have this kind of nonlinear characteristics, but after that this exponential rise is so sharp, you can consider it as a linear region. Okay, so we have to utilize this nonlinear region or square law region. It is also known as the square law region because this nonlinear region, it can be represented by a exponential function, and by using the Taylor series expansion of this particular nonlinear graph, we can consider only the first term and the second term of the Taylor series. Okay, and since the value of the voltage, that means the values of the voltage here within this range is very low, less than 1, that's why the higher order terms will be almost negligible. Okay, that's why we have to consider the first two terms of the Taylor series only. Okay, this will have this kind of form. Just I am coming to the circuit now. What is the square law modulator by which we can generate the amplitude modulated waveform? Okay, see that it is the carrier signal generator, carrier signal generator CT, and here in series of that we have connected the Bessel signal. Okay, so both of them are in series and fed to a diode. Diode will have this kind of characteristics. Okay, and these two values of the signal as a whole is considered as V1T. Okay, it is the applied voltage across the diode here, and this V1T should have very low range of values, in the range of this amount, starting from 0 up to maximum 1 volt. Okay, this value should not be very high, so that the voltage coming across the diode should not go beyond this region, non-linear region. It should remain within the non-linear region. Okay, so it is the non-linear device or the diode, and now there is one load. Okay, across this load, the voltage drop across this load is considered as the V2T. Okay, V2T is the output of this circuit, and since this is the non-linear device, output of the circuit can be represented as the square law of the input of the circuit, V1T. It will obey this kind of relationship. As I mentioned, since the output characteristics of this diode is obeying the square law or nonlinear characteristics within this small voltage range region, that's why we can neglect the higher order terms, cube, to the power 4, to the power 5. These higher order terms can be neglected. Okay, only the first term, that means the linear term, and the square law term, that means the quadratic term, you can use here. Okay, so output of this circuit V2T should be equal to A, some constant, multiplied by V1T, plus A2, another constant, multiplied by V1 square T. This V1T is the input. Okay, now V1T is the summation of these two. As I mentioned, these are in series, so V1T is the summation of MT plus carrier signal AC cos 2 pi FCT. Okay, so this whole thing, equation number 2, has to put here in the equation number 1 in place of V1T. So if you put that here and simplify, there will be several terms. Okay, now let me interpret each of these terms. What are those terms? Okay, now see that first term, A1 empty. Just do this simplification by yourself and arrange these terms in this way. Say that first term A1 empty. What is it? It is nothing but the message signal. What should be its frequency? It should be the FM. Okay, so put here it is the total frequency spectrum. I am considering only the positive frequency axis, so FM will be there. Okay, so one term is already interpreted. Next term, what is it? It is A1 some constant multiplied by AC cos 2 pi FCT. So what is it? It is nothing but a carrier signal, uninterrupted carrier signal scaled by A1. So what will be its frequency component? Its frequency component will be simply FC. See that it will be that frequency component. Okay, FC. Next term A2 m squared t. Now see, A2 is one scaling factor, m squared t. M squared t means message signal square. Now you know that if the message signal is suppose cos theta, its square should be equal to cos square theta. What will be equal to cos square theta? It should be equal to 1 minus half of 1 minus sine square. I'm just I'm not correct here. Just consider m squared t. Okay, m squared t, I am considering mt is equal to cos theta, then m squared t is equal to cos square theta. So how can you represent the cos square theta? You can represent it by half of 1 plus cos 2 theta. It is a simple thing. So that means this term is containing two terms, 1 plus cos 2 theta. That means cos 2 theta, there is a multiplication factor 2 inside the phase, so it will multiply the frequency of the cos theta by factor of 2. So if the MT has the frequency of FM, then cos 2 theta will have the frequency of 2 FM. So this term is corresponding to 1 plus cos 2 theta. That means 1 will carry the DC term and cos 2 theta will carry the frequency of 2 FM. So it is nothing but the 2 FM, this term, and one DC term will be there, which will be at 0 frequency. Okay, so 2 FM term is accomplished from this particular term, and this term, now what is it? See that it is carrying the 4 pi FCT. That means it is corresponding to the frequency of 2FC. Okay, this one is actually this factor is equal to this factor actually. That means one DC term again, and the second term is representing something which has the frequency of 2FC. Okay, so there will be again one DC term here and a 2FC term will be here. Okay, so these terms are already obtained from this equation. See that first term FM is there, 2FM will be there, this DC term is obtained from this 2FM term as well as 2FC term, 2FC term will be there, etc. And last term, what is it? Last term, see that it is the multiplication of the message signal as well as the carrier signal. Okay, so if you consider this term uninterrupted message signal, carrier signal, and this term, that means the second term uninterrupted carrier signal, and the last term multiplication of message signal and the carrier signal, what will it become? It will become simply the amplitude modulated waveform, because you know that amplitude modulated waveform will have necessarily two components. One is the unchanged carrier signal, another is the multiplication of message signal and carrier signal. So it is these two are representing as a whole the amplitude modulated waveform. Okay, and this particular term can be again dissolved into two terms, upper sideband and lower sideband. So these two terms as a whole can be represented by this way. Okay, just do the simplification by your own. You will obtain this term. It is the form of the amplitude modulated waveform. It will have four frequency components. First one, three frequency components. First one will be the FC. unchanged carrier signal, second one will have the upper sideband, third one will have the lower sideband. Okay, and all other terms, this one is the simply message signal having this FM frequency term, this one is the square, this one is one DC component, again DC component, it will have this particular notch here. This one will have the square of the message signal, it will have 2 FM frequency component. Okay, 2 FM, and last one is the 2 FC frequency component, this one. Okay, so now if you want to find out only this term at the output of the circuit, then what you have to do, somehow you have to select this portion of the frequency band only, okay, and reject this one and these 3 terms. So how can you do that? You have to use one band pass filter which will allow only the frequency components starting from FL ending at FU. Okay, FL is the lower cutoff frequency of the band pass filter, and FU is the upper cutoff frequency of the band pass filter. Lower cutoff frequency should be just lower than the lower sideband, okay, and upper cutoff frequency should have the frequency of just greater than the upper sideband. So this will be the pass band, and any frequencies beyond FU and smaller than FL should be rejected. So FU should be lower than obviously 2FC, because it should not contain the 2FC component, it should reject that. Okay, and FL again should be larger than 2FM, it should not include the 2FM. Okay, it should reject that. That's why these two are actually dependent in the reject band reject regions. Okay, so by using one band pass filter which will select only this frequency region, you at the output you will obtain the amplitude modulated waveform where all these terms will be rejected. Okay, so that means at the output of the square law circuit you have to connect a properly designed band pass filter, so that at the output you will obtain the AM signal, and this band pass filter should be designed in accordance with the following described FL and FU. FL and FU should obey these characteristics. Okay, so this is all about the square law diode modulator, which is used for AM generation, DSB AM generation. Okay, so it is a generation part of the AM. Now I am going to the detection part. That means how can you detect the AM wave at the receiver? Generation has to be done at the transmitter end, from where you want to transmit the AM signal, and at the receiver you must demodulate it. That means extract the information signal or the message signal from the modulated waveform. Okay, that is called the detection. And now I am going to discuss what is detection. Now AM wave detection. AM wave detection is done by using simple envelope detector. Okay, circuit is similar as the square law detector, just see here. Now by using the antenna or some other mediums like copper wire or something, we have to receive the ST. ST is the modulated amplitude modulated waveform. After receiving ST, you have to feed that ST to a simple diode. Again it is the nonlinear device, but here we are using the rectifying characteristics of the diode. Okay, and this RS is required. This RS is the internal resistance of the source. That means if we consider there is a source generating the AM waveform ST, its internal resistance is RS, and forward resistance of the rectifying diode here is the RF. Okay, and after that one parallel RC circuit should be there. This is the C, and RL. RL is the value of the resistance. Both are connected in parallel. Okay, and at the output you should obtain a waveform which will be the similar of the message signal. That means MT, same as the message signal, not same but similar. Okay, now what is the requirements of this particular envelope detector? First of all, you should have this condition to be fulfilled. That means the FC should be greater than W. That means the carrier frequency should be greater than the highest frequency of the message signal, and your percentage of modulation should be less than 100%. It is obvious. Next, what is the waveform of the received waveform? That means the modulated waveform. It is that. Okay. If you pass this received waveform or the modulated waveform through a diode connected in series, it will just rectify it. That means the negative portion of this waveform will be rejected. Okay, so the positive portion will be there. After that, this waveform will be fed to the capacitance. Okay, now see that. Look at from this region. Okay, here the voltage is very high, so capacitor will be charged, and suddenly the voltage start to decrease. So what will happen? Voltage across the capacitor. What will happen? You know that voltage across the capacitor cannot change instantaneously. So it should have certain finite time to discharge. So capacitor will follow this path of discharge. And before the total discharge of the capacitor, it may happen that the second spike of the modulated waveform will rise to its maximum value. So again charging will start, and the voltage across the capacitor will charge. Okay, will charge that capacitor, and again it is sharply decreased. So what will happen? Again it will start to discharge, but discharging rate is very small. That's why before reaching the discharging current of the capacitor to 0, again the modulated waveform spike will begin to rise sharply and begin to charge the capacitor. In this way, the voltage across the capacitor will follow these lines. Okay, voltage across the capacitor. And now see that if the frequency of the carrier signal is very large, then these spikes or the peaks of the sinusoidal waveforms will be very dense. And if those are very dense, then what will happen? Actually, the voltage across the capacitor is touching the almost the tip of each of those peaks of the sinusoidal or cosinusoidal waveform. Okay, that's why those are actually following the envelope. If these particular waveforms, these spikes are very dense, then what will happen? This particular envelope will be similar as the message signal. Okay, so you will obtain this kind of output across the capacitor due to the charging and discharging phenomena. So after getting this is the estimation of the message signal. See that message signal should be look like this one, because it is envelope of the modulated signal will carry the message signal, and after passing through the envelope detector, you will obtain this kind of waveform at the output. If these ripples are very small, only when these peaks are very dense, and you will obtain almost same estimation as the message signal. Okay, that is the working principle of the envelope detection. Actually, charging during the positive half cycles rising period, charging of the capacitor will follow this path. That means charging will done through RS and RF. Okay, so charging time will be proportional to RS plus RFC. Okay, and it should be smaller than 1 by FC. That means 1 by FC means the time period of the carrier signal, because this charging time should be so much sharp. It should follow the sharp increase. That's why the charging time should be much smaller than the time period of the carrier signal. Okay, that's why this condition is there. So RS plus RC multiplied by C, this should be lower than the 1 by FC or the carrier signal's time period. Okay, and next the discharging time. Discharging time should be much larger than the actually time period of the whole message signal. It should not be very large, but it should have certain limit. Okay, but it should be greater than the time period of the carrier signals, because if it is the time period of the carrier signal starting from this peak to this peak, one discharge, after that, after reaching the next time period, the voltage across the capacitor should not be fall to zero value. It should be like that or like that or like that. Okay, you remember that the total discharging time, it may be very large. This total discharging time should be higher than the time period of the carrier signal. That's why discharging will occur through the this load resistance RL. Okay, this was the charging path, this will be the discharging path, because during the discharging time this path will be open circuited, diode will be reverse biased. Okay, so discharging path will be this one. So time constant, or sorry, the time for discharge will be RL multiplied by C. It should be greater than 1 by FC. Okay, but you remember that this RLC should not be very much large value, because if it is very large value, then it cannot follow the message signal having the frequency of W, highest frequency of W, or time period of 1 by W. Because if it is very large, then what will happen, this particular discharging time may be like that, it cannot follow the next cycle of the carrier signal. Okay, or maybe like that, it cannot follow like this. That's why the discharging time should be lower than the time period of the message signal, but it should be higher than the time period of the carrier signal. Okay, so this is the envelope detector. This is the purpose of the envelope detector. Purpose of envelope detector is to detect the message signal. Okay, and this message signal can be detected by means of detecting the envelope of the modulating waveform, and this envelope can be detected by using a simple diode switch and in rectifier mode and alternative charging and discharging of a RL circuit, RC circuit, parallel RC circuit. Okay, next and last topic for this discussion is the limitations of DSB AM. What are the limitations? As I already mentioned, it is wasteful of power. That means most of the power is wasted to transmit the unchanged carrier, which is not carrying any information. Okay, the transmission efficiency is only 33.33%. That means the sideband power is only the 33.33%, which is carrying the information, and rest of the 66.67% is carrying only the carrier, which is wasteful. Okay, and next one, it is wasteful of bandwidth also, because as I mentioned, bandwidth of the amplitude modulator waveform is 2W. If the message signal has the bandwidth of W, your transmission is containing both upper sideband as well as lower sideband, and those are redundant. Actually, you can send either upper sideband or lower sideband to carry the message. You are sending both of them, although both of them are carrying the same message. Okay, that's why the bandwidth is becoming 2W. So it is wasteful of bandwidth also. Okay, you can reduce this bandwidth up to W by using only a single sideband, either upper sideband or lower sideband. Okay, so it will be discussed later. So what are the remedies? If you want to reduce the wastage of power, then you can use another scheme, that is called DSB-SC, double sideband modulation with suppressed carrier. That means now only the upper sideband and lower sideband will be transmitted, and the carrier will be subtracted from the modulated signal, so that only the information bearing portion of the modulated waveform will be carried. Okay, so it is called the DSB-SC AM. That means the next kind of amplitude modulation technique, which will be always linear, which will be discussed later in the next lecture. Okay, and if you want to utilize, or if you want to get the remedy of 1 and 2 both, that means if you want to get the remedy of wasteful of power and wasteful of bandwidth both, then first of all you have to suppress the carrier, and next you have to suppress any one of those sidebands. Either you have to transmit upper sideband or lower sideband. Then you will have the transmission bandwidth of only W, and W amount of bandwidth you will save. That's why these are called the single sideband suppressed carrier modulation, where only a single sideband will be transmitted, and also so it will save the bandwidth, and it will also save some amount of power, as well as it will suppress the carrier. That's why lots of power will be saved. So these are all about the simple amplitude modulation or DSB AM. From my next lecture I will discuss the next two types of amplitude modulation, that means DSB-SC as well as the SSB-SC. Till now, thank you.